The title of the latest Netflix movie, Leave the World Behind. Here we go. We're here. You'll notice the tagline for this movie is "There's no going back to normal." That's a big, big thing right off the bat. That's quite telling. I also find it fascinating. Again, I don't believe in coincidences, but it's kind of interesting. If you look at the names on the left movie poster there, you got Julia Roberts, you got the Ali guy, I'm not even going to pronounce his name, Ethan Hawke, and Myhala, I guess. If you look, the Baal on their names are also lined up to spell Baal. I just think that's fascinating. Again, they don't do things in coincidence. I just wanted to point that out. It even has Baal spelled in the names there. So I just thought I'd put that out. But this is the latest movie. It came out on December 8th. And this movie is written and directed by a guy by the name of Sam Esmail, one of those things, who created a show called Mr. Robot, which is about a cybersecurity hacker and basically global dominance through corporation hacking stuff. I find that interesting. But Leave the World Behind was produced by a production company called Higher Ground, which is owned by Barack and Michelle Obama. And it's come out recently that Barack had personal touches on the script. He personally helped shape the script with producer notes and planning for the movie. So he had his hand involved with this in more ways than one. Now, the movie in a nutshell is about a massive blackout of power, internet, radio, TV, cell, and landline phones, as well as injection of racial clashes. Remember from the Rockefeller thing, talking about ethnic clashes? There it is. We find that it was a major cyber attack on America by foreign hackers. That's what they're saying. There's a ton of symbolism throughout the movie. We're not going to get into that. Let's just focus on the subject here with what's going on with this. So let's stay focused on the cyber attack aspect of it. But there is a ton of symbolism in the movie. Now, there is a specific scene where one character explains a 3-stage maneuver plan to cause the collapse of America to another character. I really wish I could show you guys the clip, but this thing would get taken down if I did that. So I can't. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and show it to you the best I can. So this is probably the most significant scene, in my opinion. I know there's going to be some people that you're supporting Netflix. I'm not supporting Netflix. I have other ways of seeing things. Not going to get into it. Anyways, but this is probably the most important scene in my opinion, because they lay out this plan for everybody to know what is going on if you're paying attention to it. And again, they do this because it's part of their rule book, but they also do this because they realize they can't lose at this point. And guys, as Christians, we know at this stage of what's going on in the timeline, they're not going to lose. It's going to continue to go towards that Antichrist system. But in the end, we understand that they will lose in the very end and God wins. That's just how it goes. That's what the Bible tells us. But at this point, there's no stopping it. So they just tell us. They realize it doesn't matter. We can just tell you straight out what we're going to do. You ain't going to stop us. So that's why they do this. So the 3-stage maneuver. What is number 1? Let's take a look. Isolation. Disable all transportation and communication. Make the target deaf, dumb, and paralyzed. This has to do, again, you have that cyber attack that takes down all ability for transportation and communication. You have no idea what's going on. You can't communicate with anybody. You don't know what's going on. They specifically have a scene in there where everybody is driving EV cars like Teslas. All of a sudden, they just shut down. So you can't even transport through that stuff. Everything, again, you make them dumb, deaf, and they have no idea what's going on. So that would be step 1. You're isolating not only the country from the rest of the world, but you're isolating the people in the country from the other people in that same country. So that's step 1, isolation. What's step 2? Synchronized chaos. You terrorized, again, keep in mind, this is This is what the guy is literally explaining to the other guy in this movie. I'm not just coming up with things or whatever. He literally step by step explains exactly what I'm explaining to you. So they are telling us word for word. Step 2, synchronized chaos. Terrorize with covert attacks and disinformation. You overwhelm the defense systems for extremists in their own military. And no clear enemy or motive means people turn on each other. So, first part of that, terrorize with covert attacks and disinformation. If you start dropping propaganda all over the country, one says China, another says Russia, another one says Korea, another one says Iran, all of a sudden, nobody has any idea what's going on. You've got propaganda out there saying it's this person, it's that person, it's this person. Nobody knows what's going on. Continues to cause confusion. Overwhelmed defense systems for extremists in their own military. Basically, what this means is you make the defense system so vulnerable that the people in the military start turning those own weapons against others because they think it's somebody else that's doing it, and all of a sudden you've got military weapons being unleashed all across your own country. That's what it's talking about. And then right here, no clear enemy or motive, which means people turn on each other. There's no trust. You've already got the ethnic clashes. So this is where, and I've talked about this before, but this is where I think the perfect trifecta of the last 3 presidents we've had fits perfectly. You had Obama first, who created the country's most racial divide in all of the United States. Then you had Trump, that created the most political divide in all of the United States. Then you had Biden, who created the most like alphabet agenda, anything to do with gender divide in the entire country. So you've hit it from 3 different aspects that involve ethnic and religious, the same thing from the Rockefeller thing, causing massive clashes between people, so much so that people disassociated from their families because somebody like this president and the other person like that president worked flawlessly. So you've already got terrible trust in the country. Now you've got an attack where nobody trusts anybody and everybody's just going to start turning on each other because of it. So what does that turn into? What's the last step? Again, this is the character explaining it in the movie. Coup d'etat, civil war, and collapse of the country. You have destroyed the network that makes the country go. You have turned the country's weapons on itself, and you've got everybody in the country just eating each other alive. You have a collapse of the entire country. So, when you look at the warnings of the cyber events, you look at the outcomes of hack attack scenario in the Rockefeller document, which again, 2 of the 4 have already come to pass. And then you look at this movie, who's behind it, and what the scenario is that seems to be lining up exactly with what they've been warning us about. You quite possibly have the outcome of a cyber attack event taking place. Whether it's just America, whether it's certain countries, whether it's globally, remember, they need to tear everybody down to the same level so they can build their kingdom globally. And that step by step sure looks like a very plausible situation if a cyber attack does unfold. Very interesting. We're seeing an increase in cyber attacks, hacks, and threats as we have been for the past couple of years. These increases really took off about when the lockstep scenario took off. So when lockstep came into effect, end of 2019, maybe a little bit earlier than that, but mainly 2020 is when it started happening. Well, we started to see an increase on the cyber scale of things. Now, it was always happening before, but it was about 2020 when things really started taking off on the cybersecurity. And that's no coincidence. Everybody became isolated and everything became digital at that point. That was part of their plan. So, of course, the increase of cybersecurity is going to go along with that. It's amazing how that works, right? With 2024 being touted as a high caliber year for events such as the US election and the WHO pandemic accord, it's possible, it's possible, not predicting anything. I'm just saying it's possible the cyber realm could unload because of that.